go ahead and get started. So the topic is serverless databases, the next generation of cloud and beyond. I'll pause for a moment on our safe harbor slide because legally I'm required to do so. So my name is Nabil Nawaz. I'm based out of Dallas, Texas. I think everyone here is local. There may be a few people from out of town, but majority of you from the San Jose or California area? Okay, cool. So I'm a sales engineer here at PingCAP. I've been here about a year now. I've been working in IT for about 26 years. Most of my experience has been with Oracle database. In fact, in my last years of working with Oracle, I worked with, has anyone heard of Exadata, their flagship engineered system platform? So I wrote a book on Exadata with a team of people, O'Reilly book, about 8 years ago. So, and recently in the last few years, I've had the opportunity to work with distributed SQL databases, such as TiDB. So I came to PingCAP to be part of something very, very special, to work with a great team of people in here, like Leisha and Matt and many others and Jeff. And I enjoy speaking at conferences and meetups and user groups. And recently, I was at a conference in London speaking about TiDB Cloud. It was a good opportunity to see the city and connect with the people and talk to them about the TiDB Cloud service. So I would love to help you learn more about this amazing technology. And by the way, I am active on social media, so I encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn and on Twitter. And with that, I'll hand this over to Matthew, my partner in crime.
Hello everyone, my name is Matt Pennerosa. I have been with PingCAP for about 3 months now, and I'm a solutions architect. And my background is not as impressive as Nabil's, but my background is in software engineering, particularly in the Web3 trading space. And a couple fun facts about me: I was born in Hawaii, I live in Austin, and I used to be a competitive gamer and fisherman.
All right. So let's talk about the agenda. We'll talk about TiDB deployment options. We'll talk about what is, why serverless, what is a serverless database, and then our main topic, which is TiDB Serverless. Also wanted to quickly mention that since we have limited time today, we're going to hold off on the questions and comments until the very end. If we have time, we'll try to do a quick demo. And also we have the honor of having our expert product manager here, Shinchi, in our audience, so he'll also be able to help. He lives and breathes serverless every single day. So thanks to him, we were able to make this presentation happen, and to other people on our team like Leisha and many others. So thank you to the whole TiDB team, the PingCAP team. So I think you guys have learned a lot about TiDB over the last couple of days. TiDB stands for Titanium Database. I don't want to go too much into depth what is TiDB, but it's the most advanced, modern, open source distributed SQL database in the world today. And I will give you one fun fact about TiDB. It is the only open source database that's MySQL compatible that can run HTAP mixed workloads, meaning that we can run OLTP, real-time, and analytical workloads all within the same database platform. We have many strong customers that depend upon us every single day to run their business critical workloads globally. And I think you've heard about some of the stories today. So let's talk about TiDB deployment options before we get into the serverless topic. There's two ways you can deploy TiDB. There's a self-managed, and then there's a managed service. So self-managed, meaning that you will install TiDB yourself, you will upgrade it, you'll monitor the backups, you'll monitor the monitoring of the platform, and do all the upgrading, the patching all yourself from end to end. You can install and deploy TiDB on a variety of platforms. You can deploy it on your own public cloud. You can deploy it in your own data center. You can deploy it within virtual machines. You can deploy it within bare metal servers, even on containers. That's all self-managed. On the right-hand side, we have our managed cloud service. The managed cloud service, we have a service called Dedicated Cloud Service. It runs on AWS and on GCP. Now, on that service, you will actually take the time to define the number of servers, your vCPUs, your memory, and your storage for your cluster. You even have the option to deploy it in AWS or in GCP. And then we have our serverless tier, which we'll be talking about in this presentation today. So why serverless? What if you didn't have to worry about blank for your cloud database? So many things come to mind. What if you don't have to worry about sizing and capacity planning anymore? Just think about the time you think about deploying an environment. You have to define the number of vCPUs, the memory, the storage, and then think about the capacity planning you have to do. It could take for the next few days, for the next few weeks, for the next few months, for the next year. What kind of capacity planning do I have to do to accommodate my applications? And think about the sizing of your cloud database. Okay, I'm sorry, scaling of the cloud database platform. So as your workloads will peak, you will actually have to manually scale and grow the database platform over time to accommodate your workloads. And then as the workloads come down, scaling back down, that is a pain in itself. And then what the next problem that comes in, let's say, did anybody attend the session with Ed, keynote with Ed this morning? He gave an example of a use case that might be applied to many of the customers today. He said, if you recall, around 80% of the time, a database is idle. It doesn't apply to all databases, but he was giving him one example. And that ties into my unused resources point. So imagine if you have provision for a peak workload, and then that workload is finished. You have that extra capacity out there that's sitting there, idle, not doing anything. You're just paying for that. And then the day-to-day, you may have a cloud environment where it's not DBaaS, but you've installed it yourself on a cloud service. And you actually have to have the pain of dealing with the installation, the upgrades, the patching, the backups, the monitoring, all the day-to-day support. So that's another pain. So all of these things, what if you didn't have to worry about them anymore? So what is a serverless database? A serverless database doesn't mean there's no servers. In fact, quite the contrary. A serverless platform is a DBaaS cloud platform that is designed to run the serverless technology. So you can actually run databases without actually thinking about servers. Just imagine that. Running a database without actually thinking about servers, just connecting to it. And you will be able to run the database on when it needs to, on what it needs to run on, and when it needs to run. And the database service will automatically scale up and down based on your workload requirements. So let's talk about TiDB Serverless. Let's enter the next generation of databases. I feel personally it's the final frontier of databases. The future, actually, because you don't have to worry about any of this infrastructure anymore. You're just connecting to the database and focusing just on your application development, and that's it. And the database will do anything that it needs to do based on your workload requirements. So once again, TiDB Serverless runs TiDB, a MySQL compatible open source distributed database platform that runs HTAP workloads. It will automatically scale up and down in real time based on your workload requirements. Also, you will pay as you go. You never have to overspend at all. It's truly pay as you go. Yes, there are cloud database services where you do pay as you go. However, you can have a monthly spending budget. I'll talk more about that in a moment. And then finally, a couple of cool things. There's AI-assisted enhancements that are included with the platform, which I'll talk about in a minute as well. So the first thing to understand about TiDB Serverless is it is MySQL compatible. The same TiDB database that you run in the self-managed or in the dedicated cloud tier, it's the same database that's running on the serverless tier. TiDB is MySQL 5.7 compatible. I believe in the roadmap. I don't know our timeline. We may be becoming 8.0 compatible as well in the future, but right now we're 5.7 compatible. 5.7, which means any libraries that you use for MySQL today, any libraries, ORMs, any connection strings that you're using, it will be totally compatible with TiDB Serverless. So we did a test of a MySQL RDS. Has anybody played with MySQL RDS in AWS before? So we did a comparison, and we have this cool website, I'll talk more about it in a second, where we did a MySQL RDS comparison for an analytical workload compared to TiDB Serverless. And out of the box, it ran 67 times faster. The MySQL RDS ran that workload in around 12,500 milliseconds, and we ran it in around 180 milliseconds. Truly epic speed, out of the box, no special configuration or tuning. And we have a ton of these examples available online. Here's another cool example where we ran a MySQL RDS workload for 100 million rows and compared that to TiDB Serverless. And this came back within milliseconds on TiDB Serverless compared to seconds in MySQL RDS. Again, right out of the box. And this website is called play.tidbcloud.com. So we'll share this link afterwards as well. But I encourage you to go there. There's a lot of cool examples where we're doing comparisons of database workloads and scaling in and out. And all this is in real time, available online right now. Another key important point to remember, and if this is something you need to think about remembering for this presentation, is the real-time elasticity. So the actual system platform will actually scale up and down based on your workload requirements. So if you actually have a peak workload and you need additional vCPUs, it's intelligent enough to know if you need additional vCPUs, memory and storage to accommodate the workload requirements for your workload that's running, it will actually scale up for you online automatically. You don't even have to think about it. And as your workload goes down, it will automatically descale down for you, down to 0. That's I would say, the biggest value point of TiDB Serverless. Another important thing to understand is it's truly pay-as-you-go. Yes, cloud database services are pay-as-you-go, but this is customized truly pay-as-you-go based on your workload requirements at a specific point in time. So if you have a peak workload that's running over an evening or a weekend, and you really need some horsepower, vCPU memory, some storage, additional nodes, we will give that to you, but you're going to pay for that. And as the workload again goes back down, we're going to descale that and come down in terms of the infrastructure resource, all behind the scenes. You don't have to worry about it. And another thing to understand is you can set up a monthly spending budget limit for TiDB Serverless. So if you don't want to exceed a certain amount, you can have peace of mind that that will be available for you. And by the way, I wanted to give some brief history about TiDB Serverless. Many years were put in to develop this technology to work with TiDB. This was announced last year at our HTAP conference, and just this past summer, I believe July, last year at our HTAP conference, it was not fully GA. It was beta, but just this past July, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shinchi, it became fully available GA. And now we actually have several customers running in production with TiDB Serverless. The AI-assisted enhancements, I know the slide is really small, but let me explain what they are. So has anyone heard of ChatGPT or not heard of ChatGPT? Okay, so you're probably in the Stone Ages if you haven't heard about it, but so I think everybody's heard about ChatGPT now. Even my kids use it. So this technology is really cool. Imagine writing something in English and having a SQL statement come back to you and being able to use generative AI technology. We call it chat to query within the serverless platform. You load in your data within the database. It automatically scans the table, the columns, and the data that's in there, and you just type in an English statement, and it will convert it into a SQL statement that you can review, change it, and if you want, go ahead and just run it. It'll run for you on the fly. Our CEO recently did a presentation, Max, and he made a funny statement. I kind of laughed when I saw the recording of the video. He said, you know what? I think I'm losing my SQL writing ability. You know, he doesn't have to worry about writing SQL anymore. You can just write English statements and get the output for you. Yes, this is new technology. It's not very mature, but I encourage you to start playing with it. And our product will mature as this chat to query technology does mature over time. Another cool AI enhancement add-on that we have in TiDB Serverless is called the TiDB bot. So it is a help bot where you can actually ask questions, generative AI, about any questions about TiDB, about best practices, about implementation, about running workloads. If you have questions and you want to learn more about TiDB online and you don't want to dig into the documentation, you can use the TiDB bot. It's going to help you. And with that, I'll pass it back over to Matthew to talk about our serverless architecture.
And if actually one more thing I can add to the chat to query, it's actually better than ChatGPT at generating queries. I don't know how many people here have tried to use ChatGPT and actually code, but if you have, it's kind of, but chat to query is actually, I would say, a little bit better than that. You guys have all probably seen TiDB's architecture a million times by now. But you can really think about TiDB Serverless really like a giant multi-tenant environment. Just like in TiDB Classic, we have a SQL layer, we have a storage layer. But unlike in TiDB Classic, when resources are needed to fulfill a workload, those resources will come in from an on-demand pool to fulfill that workload until such time as they're no longer needed. And we can also scale completely down to 0, by the way. And then when data goes cold, it also can get stored. It gets stored in an S3 shared storage group. And one thing to note: if you're spinning up from 0, it only takes 200 milliseconds to spin up for a workload. And TiDB Serverless is really here to free you up to focus on your applications. Security and isolation, compliance, backup recovery, horizontal scaling, performance tuning. These are all things that you'll never have to worry about again on serverless. The only things that you're going to have to worry about is figuring out how you want to use TiDB in your application. And I don't want you to take my word for this. You can go on to play.tidbcloud.com, like Nabil's already mentioned.
Please make a note of this website. It's really good.
Yes. And we all have pre-built samples in here with pre-built data, and you can actually get performance metrics from us against other databases in real time. So these aren't pre-recorded. You can actually view how we perform against, for example, MySQL RDS in real time. And the use cases for TiDB Serverless are pretty much as limited, or as unlimited as TiDB itself. Financial systems, SaaS applications, real-time Web3 apps, metadata stores. And speaking of metadata stores, OSS Insights runs on TiDB Serverless today in production. And if you don't know what OSS Insights is, OSS Insights analyzes billions of GitHub events and extracts insights from them in real time. And it does this on over 12 terabytes of data, serving mixed workload requirements generated by AI. But OSS Insights also shows off one of the key benefits of TiDB Serverless. And that is that it was featured on Hacker News, which caused a 7x increase in traffic in a single day. And on TiDB Serverless, it was able to scale to this increase in traffic with no issue. And if there's any leadership in the audience, this is something I really kind of want you to take to heart, because you never really know when a news article is going to come out or an event, maybe like COVID, that's really going to spike your traffic. This is going to be a totally random occurrence. And if you're not prepared beforehand to scale for that, you're going to lose out on those opportunities before they happen. But OSS Insights, it wasn't always on TiDB Serverless. It was actually originally a dedicated cloud infrastructure, just like, well, every other database. And the user experience was, and a choice had to be made. Do we provision for peak workloads, or do we monitor and scale? This all changed when we migrated to serverless. There was no more choice to make. It was both cost effective and required zero manual intervention during spikes. And TiDB Serverless is really here to eliminate tasks. Provisioning, configuration, we no longer need it. Automatic upgrades, daily backups, a single platform for your hybrid workloads, AI development tools, auto elasticity with automatic scaling, and all of the standard enterprise security features that you can come to expect from an enterprise-grade cloud platform. And more security certifications than I can possibly cover. But when I'm at these sort of things and I'm in the audience and someone is telling me that they have this product that can do all these things, I'm always tend to be skeptical. Is this a wish list? Are these things that you're going to do in the future? So that's why I want to introduce you to ChainTool. ChainTool uses TiDB Serverless in production today. And ChainTool serves massive amounts of data via public APIs. And if you know anything about crypto, you know that it is massively volatile. A spike in traffic up to 500% in a single hour, this is not an uncommon scenario. In fact, that wouldn't even be light. Sometimes a news story comes out and you could be spiking up to 100x of your current traffic. And this actually happens to be one of the perfect situations for TiDB Serverless. And fun fact, you can spin up a production-ready cluster in 22 seconds. And before I wrap up, who here remembers spinning up their very first database? Oh, okay. I guess I'm not alone. Because I barely remember spinning up my very first database. I believe it was MySQL, which I spun up with like a WordPress website. I think I was hosting on GoDaddy or DreamHost. There might even been a one-click deploy button. But I do actually remember one thing very clearly. And that was when I spun this up, I didn't consider or even think about my database at all. I didn't even think that a database was something that had to be considered as part of a greater application. I mean, I still know devs that think that way, to be honest. But I do remember something else. And that is, I remember everything just working. Traffic would go up and down my small WordPress website with no problems. Insert, updates, deletes, all seamless. And that, I think, is the ultimate goal of TiDB Serverless, is to bring simplicity to enterprise-grade scale.
Wanted to thank you for coming to the presentation.